Don't go away, folks. It's going to get a lot more interesting. That was an amazing discussion. I want to thank Mitch Berman. Let's give him an amazing hand for so masterfully leading that conversation. We're going to take just a second to rearrange the furniture, and then I'm going to ask my friend Mayor Suarez back on stage with Mayor Daniella Levine Cava of Miami-Dade, and Alberto Ibarguen, the president and CEO of the Knight Foundation, which of course is one of this country's most important philanthropic organizations, most impactful, and one that's based here in Miami, for discussion on the kind of Miami we want in the future. It's going to be a continuation of the discussion that just took place. And please stay here, don't go away, because after the discussion, Mayor Suarez and I will be announcing the winners of the 2022 Miami Mobility Challenge. So without further ado, Daniella, Alberto, Francis, please come on stage.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see everybody stay. Thank you very much. That was a really good and spirited discussion. We have almost no time to dally. We've got 20 minutes. What I really want to take away from the last discussion is the concept of doing rather than simply talking about it. Leadership matters. And we've got here the two most important leaders, political leaders certainly in all of South Florida. So I want to hear from you what the highest impact. We're here at CoMotion. We're not at a different conference, and May 10th and 12th we'll be at the Aspen Ideas Climate Change. We'll talk about climate there, but today we're talking about mobility. We're talking about the use of technology to do good or the use of technology to continue to separate. So I know where you stand on that, but I want to know what's the highest impact area, what's the highest need area, and how are you mobilizing to draw and then to utilize the bipartisan infrastructure bill? How are you going to get that money here, and where's the private sector partnership? So let's start with with Daniella. We just heard from Francis. Let's start with you. What's the highest impact area in terms of technology and mobility in your scheme of things?
Well, I was thinking about it a certain way until I came to the CoMotion conference. I do have to say. And of course, now we have to integrate transportation above ground and below ground. There's a lot of new terrain to cover. And I know I've been very nervous as a county commissioner and now as mayor about investing in hardware when we know the field is evolving all the time. But at the end of the day, people have to get from here to there. They have to get there reliably. They have to get there comfortably and affordably. And so much, you ended, I think, this last panel on the subject of inclusivity and equity. And there are people who are transit dependent. And I think we tend to kind of make them the last priority, right? The sexy new thing is what we're going for. And that's great. We want those sexy new things because we also, it's not one thing, it's two things. We also have to have choice transit riders. We have to get cars off the street. We can't be building more roads. We can't have the old model of individual cars all over the place. Traffic is certainly crippling. So we have to double down on the basics for those who are transit dependent, making sure it's reliable, et cetera. And that is our SMART plan. which is moving forward. And then we have to have, it has to be choice. It has to be something where people who could drive could leave that car home and benefit all of us. And maybe they'll take air mobility, and maybe they'll take a tunnel. There's a lot of opportunities there.
Let me ask you, we are in our funding, which is led by my colleague Lillian Corral here. Our focus is precisely on making sure that the community is in fact involved in the decision making.
Oh, yes.
Where have you seen that work?
Well, I am the participatory mayor, right? That's my heritage. I come from the community. In fact, I only went into elected office because people inside government were not listening to people. So I had to go inside and create an appetite. That's the way I look at it. So after creating civic engagement, I see much more of it happening in our community, and we have some really great transit advocacy groups. The Transit Alliance really brought to the county the idea of this better bus network, for example, and we have a really beautiful plan that would have more frequency on key routes, and it was done through extensive public participation. But we can't move forward without bus operators. So, you know, like everybody else that's affected by the lack of personnel, we're 200 bus drivers short. So, oh yeah, by the way, if you see the buses and they have the message on the front, it no longer says no mask, no ride. Hey, you know, now it's mask optional. We'll see how that goes. But it does still say, we're hiring. And we need 200 operators to get that plan going. But that was all done through extensive public participation. Also, my civic engagement initiative, Thrive 305, thank you for your support, the largest civic engagement initiative in Miami-Dade County history. And again, you know, getting to jobs reliably.
Yeah. Francis, what's your view? What's the highest impact area, and how have you mobilized in the city to carve out the draw and the utilization of that bipartisan infrastructure bill?
Well, we were just saying in the last panel how fast the city's growing. And one of the most common questions that I get is, how are you going to deal with the impact on infrastructure, whether it's education or whether it's transportation? Those are two of my most frequent questions. And if we're gonna in fact build those 47,000 units that are in the residential pipeline, if we're gonna build that 6 million square feet of commercial space that's in the pipeline, and if we're gonna grow by the sort of exponential factors that we can grow, we have to be prepared for that. I said in my opening remarks that when government doesn't act, the private sector hacks. And what has happened in transportation in the last few years is the government has hacked because, the private sector has hacked because the government has not acted, right? So you have micromobility, which has become very prevalent. You even have now the way cities are being developed is in 15-minute walkable increments. So you live in, Coconut Grove, you can walk to just about anywhere there. You live in Midtown, you can walk to anywhere there. You live in the Design District or in Wynwood, you can walk to anywhere there. And so what's going to be now the next step is going to be cross-city mobility. So if I'm in Coconut Grove and I want to go to Wynwood,
and that for us has always been the challenge, right?
No doubt.
North-south, but east-west.
100%. And I think that something that the mayor alluded to, which is urban air mobility, will be and is going to be real. So you're going to have very efficient modes of transportation, including underground boring, that will give residents the opportunity to get around the city fast. But what's changed, the dynamics that have changed are remote work, micromobility, and we've seen a lot of micromobility technology companies here in the CoMotion Summit. And so, and the way that the city has actually developed and grown in these 15-minute walkable increments. And I have to give my predecessor credit for Miami 21, which I think was a great planning document that really sort of foresaw this evolution in the way that we grow as a city. And I think it's been extremely beneficial, and it's going to continue.
So I'm supposed to ask you about the Miami of your dreams, and I can't imagine that either of you are able to answer that in the 7 minutes we have left, according to that clock. So tell me instead, and I was just blown. I in the last panel, the idea of additional universities came up. an MIT pop-up. I know that you're talking with Northeastern University about they're possibly doing something here in Miami-Dade, which is fantastic. But what are the building blocks? You talk about doing. Both of you are really focused on practical politics, practical government. What are the building blocks of the Miami of your dreams?
Well, this mayor has issued that open invitation, and people have accepted it. And now they're here, and how do we make them stay?
Yeah.
And how do we make sure that those new businesses are really benefiting the people who are here? How do we make sure that our people are future ready for those new jobs, those new businesses? And how do we make sure that our natural innovation and entrepreneurial spirit is reflected in those investments? So this is what we're all talking about all the time. And $100 million just came down from JP Morgan Chase exactly for equity in tech. There's other funds that are focusing on that. We have the REDI, R-E-D-I scorecard, focusing on that. We've got resilient funds, so basically I see Miami-Dade not only as the canary in the coal mine of the challenges that the world faces, but also the learning laboratory for the world. The place where we say, come on in, we welcome you with open arms, and we both do, reply to our direct messages and WhatsApp and all that. And we say, we're here for you, but we also want you to live like you live here, and we want you to invest.
And engage.
Is
there any...
Engaged, informed communities, that's it.
Yes, I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah.
Where do you go if you're an entrepreneur and need a credit facility to stay here rather than go to Denver? I was talking to one not too long ago, and he said he was thinking of expanding, and in Denver and Provo. And I said, well, what's wrong with here? You already live here. Where do you go?
In terms of space?
In terms of money.
Oh, money, yes.
City National Bank, I don't know.
I just heard that we have as many unicorns and as much venture capital as which large country? I don't know, like Israel, for example, in Miami-Dade. So it's coming. This man knows about it, he works in it, but I think they're here.
I'll blow you away with a statistic. We have another one, right? We have a comparable amount of venture capital deals closed in the last quarter as China.
That can't
That's
be
pretty
true.
good.
You want to bet a lunch on it?
Okay.
Remember, they're closed, and they've been sort of anti-private sector.
Yeah,
so
I know.
VC money has dried up.
It's also a little difficult to get reliable information, but nevertheless...
According to the article I read, how about that? So 1.2 billion in the last quarter.
The fact that we could
China.
even be in the same category
Sure.
is phenomenal. So what are your building
I'm going to
blocks?
send you the article, by the way.
Okay.
I think the building blocks...
You can't believe what you read in the press.
True. Wow.
All right.
Good stuff.
I'm kidding.
Spoken like a true publisher of the largest newspaper in our community.
You were facetious, right? You weren't telling the
This
truth.
defines facetious, ironic, whatever you want to say.
For me, it comes down. I like to be very Trinitarian in nature. It comes down to three things, and I'm going to have probably a Rick Perry moment here. But it's resiliency, it's transportation, and education. It's resiliency, it's transportation, and education. We want a Miami that's here forever. Right? So from a resiliency perspective, we want to be here for my grandchildren's grandchildren. We want a Miami that's here for everyone. So that means democratizing and improving our educational system so everyone has an opportunity, a fair opportunity to be successful in this world. And then, of course, we need to be able to get people from point A to point B, which is the purpose of this, the purpose of this conference, right? Which is to say, as we grow, as a city, we need to make sure that we are well run. And I think, when you there's other things like hospitals and things that you obviously focus on, but I think those are the three main ones that I focus on.
If I could,
yes.
This is a transportation conference, but it's all about housing. Okay, it's all about where can people afford to live. And you were talking about it earlier. The price point here is just insane. So it's on all of us, and in fact, I launched what I call my Building Blocks program to bring everybody together around the solutions, because we're on a high, but we won't stay there if we can't keep our workforce.
What parts of the infrastructure bill do you think can be will you see implemented? Will we see implemented in transportation in the next year or two?
Well, I have I'm friends with the Secretary of Transportation. He's a former mayor, mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He's a good friend. We've known each other for a while, and in my conversations with him, I urge him to. I've been around transportation for 12 years since I first got elected, and I've seen more innovation in the last 6 months than I've seen in the prior 11 and a half years. And so this is something that the mayor alluded to, which is, almost fundamentally, transportation expenditures are large, right?
Yeah.
And so
take a long time.
And take
That's
a
why
while.
I asked right away.
And so you don't want to miss the sort of innovation inflection points and spend a ton of money on a technology that becomes obsolete. So I would urge the Department of Transportation to be innovative. That's one. And then, of course, in the transportation bill, and this maybe it doesn't go directly to transportation per se. I mean, in the infrastructure bill, there's a lot of good stuff on human capital. And I told the secretary that I said, look, I love the redefinition of infrastructure from not just a physical landscape, but from a human landscape as well.
Well, if I could, there's like 178 pots or something in the infrastructure bill, which we're trying to catch all of them. But I will say I'm a little nervous about the transportation part because it's not much of it is based on kind of new competition. It's get in line for the usual process. So there's a federal process, and you got a good project, fine. Now there's going to be more money, so it'll go faster, but you still have to go to the back of the line.
And that's exactly why I asked the question about what happens first, because there is inertia, there is the usual government process, and both of you are known as innovators and doers. We've got to figure out how to get that innovation on the front burner.
Well, not to call out a single product line here, but I was pretty blown away by Regent, right? Who's here from Regent? That boat/airplane. So it's coming in as a boat, but really it's going to fly.
So we expect you to be the first flying mayor?
Yeah, I'm definitely ready for that. Yeah, we're getting one in my fleet. Yeah.
Thank you both very, very much. Daniella, Levine, Cava, Francis Suarez, you're terrific.